Angel in the middle. Middle of what? Actually, two angels in the middle of two great stories today, two great conversion stories, and a couple of stories where a couple of people's lives were saved. That kind of angel story. And there you are with your angel, just looking so cute together. They got a few billion years on you, but they still look great. And wearing that same outfit of theirs. Amazing. All these years. Think about angels. They never stand in front of closets going, oh, what today? What today? Does this make me look fat? Never. Not once. So this is an interesting day. I think the church is making an interesting statement today, whether it knows it or not. As I record this is the day we recognize Paul's conversion from Saul to Paul. He's on his road to being, Saint Paul. This is the day where he talks about it was noon, and there was this with shining lights and knocks. It doesn't say off his horse. Artwork says horse. It just says it knocks him to the ground. He goes blind. Paul goes blind, and then he hears a voice saying, "This is Jesus." That's his conversion story, and we recognize that today in the church. This huge event. Now then, is anything like that happening today in the world? Anything? This is the problem I think the church kind of has right now. All these incredible things happening in the Bible. Where are they now? They're still happening. That's always been my point. That's my hot button. You know that everything we read in the Bible is still happening today. Going to show you today. Going to show you. But when you look at the Bible and you see something like Peter, he's in jail, and angels, they break him out. They do a Shawshank breakout, man, and he gets out thanks to angels. Anything like that happening today? Or is it Jeremiah? He's out in the desert somewhere. He's dying, and an angel shows up with he's got drink. I think it was Tang. I think it was orange Tang, and a little cake, no frosting. But it basically revived him, anything like that happening today. Do angels do these kinds of things, right? So today, and just to tell you how my angel is working, I get a nudge to listen to Jeff Cavins' reflection today, and he's talking about today's gospel, but not so much about what's in the gospel, what happens right before the gospel. In the gospel, Jesus has been resurrected. He's about to ascend into heaven. He's talking to his apostles. He's in the room, and he says, now you're going to go out and you're going to preach to the whole world. But as Jeff points out, maybe more important is the Bible verse not included in today's reading. Right before all that, Jesus says to the apostles, he rebukes them. He gives them crap, is what he does. He gets in their faces. You know what he tells them? Why didn't you believe? You heard credible stories from people you know and trust that I was walking out of that tomb. You heard people say, Jesus is back. He's alive. He's been resurrected. And you didn't believe him. You did not believe what you were told by people you know and love. You didn't. Your hearts are hardened, is what he told them. He rebuked. He gave him crap, is what he gave them. Well, we still have the same problem. We don't believe. How the church was built, built on the miraculous. Why thousands of people joined every day. It wasn't just because someone gave a good homily. Things were happening. The miraculous healings and angelic stories and all this stuff was going on, right? And so, the church just exploded because of all that. And today, we don't hear about all that stuff much, do we? So again, how does my angel talk to me? A couple of nights back, I picked up my phone and it was 11:11 p.m., which made me chuckle because earlier in the day, I picked up my phone and it was 11:11 a.m., which made me chuckle because the previous night I picked up my phone and it was 11:11 p.m. It's like, and if you know about what are called angel numbers, heard about this, a series of ones are considered angel numbers. It means that your angel supposedly is trying to get a hold of you, send you a message. I don't know if all that's true, but if my angel knows that I'm aware of that, will he use that? Maybe. It seemed to me that my angel was contacting me saying, let's do something about angels. Okay. We're going to do something about angels today at Men's Morning Light. Two huge stories, biblical proportion. And I call this kind of stuff day two. What's day one? Day one is you're going about your life. Everything's the same. Day three, everything has changed in your life because of what happened on day two. I have day two kinds of stories, conversion kinds of stories. I tell you that songs bubble up in my head seemingly out of nowhere, but we know where that nowhere is. So one morning I woke up to the song Waltzing Matilda. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. And I'm going, Australia? Am I going to Australia? Should I be using crikey in more sentences? What is that all about? A couple hours later, I get an email from a woman named Karen from Australia. and she's telling me her story from my Touched by Heaven podcast, and it's one of these biblical proportion kind of things. And I'll just tell you the story. Now, keep in mind, I got no budget here, right? I mean, I'm this much above being a pencil drawing myself. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have any video to show you. We'll throw a couple of pictures up while I play you audio of Karen telling this amazing, amazing story that involves angels and hearing a voice and all that. So let's just set this. Let's take you to Australia with this lovely picture of this. Actually is they say this actually is a picture of Australia, of an Australian street. Karen had gotten off work. She was off the train in Sydney, and she's now off the train, and she's now walking home. Now, lovely road, lovely street. At the end of that street somewhere, and she can barely see it, she sees 3 guys carrying something burdensome. It's bulky, it's heavy. There's 3 of them carrying something. It's like she's just aware of it, and that there seems to be some kind of bed sheet over whatever it is they're carrying. And they're walking her way, but on the opposite side of the street, okay? And she's just kind of like, yeah, whatever. And then she starts hearing this voice. Let's call it an angel's voice. And it begins to talk to her and tell her what to do next.
And so I looked at them and really kind of dismissed them. And then I had a thought in my head that wasn't mine. The thought came out of nowhere. It wasn't my thought. And it just said to me, when they drop that, make sure you look the other way. And I was like, that was a bit weird, but yeah, fair enough. So I kind of didn't acknowledge it. And then the message came through again. It's like, I mean it. It's really important. Like when they drop it, you look the other way. And so out loud, I go, yeah, okay, I hear you. I'll look the other way. What followed was a couple of really strange minutes of me really talking to this voice in my head. And it was quite funny. Like it was joking with me. It was, it kept repeating that I needed to look the other way. And finally I was like, I'm not stupid. I'll look the other way. Like you can stop telling me. It's fine. I get it. And so the voice says to me, it's like, look the other way, look the other way, look the other way. And I'm like, I hear you. It's like, seriously, I'll look the other way. So I had quite a nice time laughing and joking with this voice. And then all of a sudden, the voice said, I'm going to stop talking now. Get ready. They're going to drop it now. Remember, it's very important you look the other way. And so I took another step or 2, and then I heard bang. And I immediately, they were to my right. So I immediately looked to my left, and I felt like an idiot because I was craning my neck and I'm looking for this imaginary sound that clearly had happened, on the other side of the road from me. And I was basically opposite them at the time that it happened. So I'm looking and I'm carefully looking. And then I decided I'd probably looked long enough. And so I sort of turned. I didn't look at them at all. I just sort of turned to my head a little bit and started walking forward again. And not long after I started walking forward, I heard one of the men say, no, man, it's okay. She looked the other way. And then I looked toward them, and so one of them had actually been headed in my direction and had his back turned to me now and was walking back toward the group of men. And they just kept going on their way and I kept going on mine. And then I remembered the voice in my head, and I went to say, oh my goodness, thank you. But there was nothing, like there was no voice. It was gone.
Obviously, one of them was concerned that you saw whatever, because he's coming your way, and then he turns around. This is weird.
And then one of the other ones.
What the heck is this? What? I mean, really, honest to God.
I have no idea. And I guess what surprised me the most was that the guy used the same words. No, it's okay. She looked the other way.
Believer? I sure do. And she told me too, she said at some point the angel was just kind of like singing it. Look the other way. He was just having so much fun with her. It was like serious, but he knew what the outcome was going to be. And he was having fun with it as well. And I said, what do you think was that? Was that a dead body under there? She said, I don't think so. It didn't look like a dead body. She said, I don't know what it was. But obviously, and she looked the other way. And this is how God speaks in burning bush. This is how he's always spoken. He doesn't just always, well, obviously he was using English through the angel, but dramatic, absolutely dramatic. And it does remind me of course, the Genesis story of, again, another, don't look that way, look this way. And that's Lot's wife. Remember, they're all running away from Sodom. God's about ready to throw hot rocks on Sodom. And they're all running away, the family of 4, Mr. and Mrs. Lot and the lovely Lot children. And then who turns around? Of course, it's, oh, I love fireworks displays. And there's Mrs. Lot in the middle of her, ooh, ah, and she's suddenly a pillar of salt. She disobeyed. She did not follow what the angel said to do. She disobeyed God. You know, she was right in the middle of saying, does this come with synchronized music? Oh, this, zap, gone. Right. But again, disobedience will get you that disobedience. Yeah. And as I've told you before, then the Lot family carried mom back to their new home where she provided seasoning for the rest of their lives. Yeah. What I love about the story, though, is just that the angel's personality, the humor, the seriousness. The next story of biblical proportion that is interesting because the angel is dead serious, has to be dead serious. This involves Cowboy John. He was actually in town here doing some evangelization with an organization. And so Cowboy John was on the phone with me telling me about what happened to him years before. He had served in the military, done a lot of things he wished he hadn't done, ordered to do some things, did some things on his own. But bottom line is he sank down to the pit, and he had a drinking issue and he had a drug issue, sank so far he wanted to end his life. So one night he starts writing notes to everybody he's going to give stuff to. You get my watch, you get my Jeep, you get this gun, you get that, everything else. He just wrote out all these notes. He grabbed his .45 revolver, jumped in the car, and headed out. He was going to find some place to end his life. So he drives down the road for a while, comes to a little small town. It's empty. I mean, it's 3:00 in the morning when he pulls behind this Arby's, and he's looking around. There's nobody around, nobody around. This is the place to do it. And he pulls out that .45 revolver.
And I picked up that gun and I put it in my mouth and I cocked it. It was a rapping on the window. Now it's 3:00 in the morning. They're behind an Arby's. It's deserted. You don't expect somebody to be rapping on your window. Very startled, I put the gun down and look, and there's this real old black man standing outside my car, homeless guy, and his clothes he has on are just literally in shreds. He didn't appear dirty in any way whatsoever. He looked very clean, but his clothes were literally rags. So I rolled the window down. He looks at me, and I'll never forget what this man said to me. He said, "Son, I don't know what in the world is so bad that you have to do that. All I own in this world are these clothes that I have on. I will give them to you if you'll just take 1 minute and pray with me. 1 minute's all I asked for." Well, I figured, what have I got to lose? A minute, I'm going to do this anyway. So we prayed, and he just said, "Lord our Father, please forgive us for what we've done and help us get through life. Help us realize the beauty of what we have and help us to live joyously in your name." But what imprinted on me the most were those first words he said, that here was a man on the street, living on the street with nothing. And he's going to give me his clothes if I'll take a moment to pray with him. And I think that's what the message that God wanted me to hear was, you're worth everything in this world. You're worth everything to this man standing here to give you everything he has to take a moment and think about what you're going to do. That your life is not a waste. That you do have worth. That you are forgiven. And I did. And I prayed with him, and I just felt a huge burden come off my shoulders. My heart was actually lifted and filled, and I just broke down into tears. I mean, just uncontrollable sobbing, where you're shaking and you got snot rolling out your nose, and I was just uncontrollably crying. I looked up to thank him. He was gone. I drove up and down the streets looking for this guy, and I couldn't find him anywhere. And to this day, I will always believe, because I know in my heart, God sent an angel to help me when I needed it the most. And at that time, I needed his love more than anything in this world. And I'm grateful for that. I'm sorry. It comes over me now. I get chills, and And I'm so grateful for what he has done for me in my life. He has given me everything from that day forward. He's blessed me in so many ways. Without that angel, I wouldn't be here today.
That's bigger than breaking out of jail for me. Believe him? Amazing story. Amazing story. And then he went into evangelization work. 2 incredible conversion stories. You see, when Karen was walking down that street, she wasn't a Christian. She called herself spiritual. You know that? Spiritual, whatever that means. Her husband, far from being even spiritual. That was her conversion moment. That was her moment when suddenly something clicked. It took a few years, and then she and her husband both were baptized, and they became Christian. That was the opening salvo. That was the opening. That was like early church. You know, it's still going on today. That wake up. And she ended up coming into the church. For Cowboy John, that was a wake up. He went to the VA, got some help, turned it around. He said about 18 months, he got himself back to being Cowboy John again, rodeo guy and a good guy and a fun guy. And they went into evangelization work. 2 people whose lives, I know, Karen, you kind of go, something bad was going to happen. He wasn't coming over to give her a rose or a Vegemite sandwich. You know what I'm saying? Something was going to happen there. And certainly Cowboy John and that angel that was there and then was gone. Everything that we read about in the Bible is still happening today. And Jesus, I believe, is still saying to us, why don't you believe it? Why did you not believe credible people when they told you I was alive and walking this earth? I think he's still asking the same questions. I do these stories every week. This is just, I'm just a little itty bitty podcast, you know, a little, and even ittier bittier Men's Morning Light. This much above a drawing, ladies and gentlemen. And he's asking, why don't you believe this stuff? This is how the church was built, you know. Are you familiar with the Thomas Jefferson Bible? Somebody reminded me of this just a few days ago. Thomas Jefferson Bible. Here's what Thomas Jefferson did. He grabbed his trusty scissors, the good scissors, not the ones in the junk drawer. He got the good scissors, and he chopped up the Bible, took out all the things Jesus said, all those beautiful things, put them into a book and said, there you go. And everyone went, whoa, that's great. Just all he did was take God out of him. All he did is would take Superman and make him into Clark Kent, permanent. Is that the God you want? Or do you want God? You know? I remember I used to play Superman when I was a kid. I'd go out in the backyard, put the towel down the back and go flying around, you know. Actually flying around the backyard, being Superman and bending things and being strong and doing all those things. I don't remember once pretending to be Clark Kent. Who cares? Our angels are doing amazing things. Our angels are incredible. And our God is asking us, how hard is your heart that you don't see what I'm doing? Every day in the world, I'm doing this every day somewhere in the world. And people are frightened. They're actually frightened to tell these stories. I get this all the time from people like John and Karen going, you know, I don't tell this story to just everybody because they know the look they're going to get, you know. So I want to pray, and I want to pray for something maybe in particular, especially today. This is Paul's conversion day, right? But I want to pray to Mary. How about let's just use a prayer. We ask, Blessed Mary, the ever virgin, all the angels and saints to pray for me to the Lord our God. We pray that at the beginning of the Mass. We pray for conversion, of seeing what the early church was, the excitement there was in it, because they dealt with angels and saints and a God that was dynamic. Clark Kent, who's he? Superman. We need a Superman in this world today. We need to know there is one. Thomas Jefferson, God love you, wonderful president, wrote some good things. But I want to know more than what he just said. I want to know who he is. I want to know what he is. I want to know what he does. And we see that today in the stories of Karen and Cowboy John. Look around. These stories are there. Be a witness yourself to what's happened in your life. Do you have a day two? Tell people. Maybe you have a series of day twos. Maybe it wasn't one big moment. Maybe it's a series of things. Tell them. What's your elevator pitch when called upon? We have an amazing God doing amazing things every day. Why? Because he's God and he loves us and he's showing himself, and he would like it if we would believe it and tell others. God bless you. See you next week on Men's Morning Light.